Hello everyone and welcome to the last class of creative writing. Today I'm not going to be introducing any new concept. We're just going to look at a few things you need to remember while writing, and these are a couple of tips you can keep in mind whenever you write a story or anything. So today we'll be doing important points to remember. The first important point to remember is the different parts of a story. Now I've explained to you all the important points, all the important parts of a story in detail. The main parts of a story are the character, the setting, and the plot. And we've had classes on each of these. You've done activities on them. So I'm fairly certain you know what I'm talking about here. And I've explained to you the importance of the three separately and in detail. So I'm not going to explain to you why these are important again. I'm pretty sure you know by now. And so why are the parts of a story important as a whole? See, it's like if you follow any recipe to make a dish, there are some important things that you need to include: salt, pepper, some vegetables. There are some fundamentals that you cannot avoid. For example, in a cake, add if you don't add salt, or if you don't add sugar, or if you don't add flour, then the cake would taste really bad. So there are few elements which are absolutely necessary. And similarly, in a story, we have three items which are absolutely necessary, and that is the character, setting, and plot. So remember, it's the combination of these three which make a story. The next important point, and a really important point, is show, don't tell. Always remember to include all five senses in part of a story. Now, what are the five senses? Sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Now we've learned early on what these five senses are, and I'm sure all of you know what they are. Now here what I'm trying to say is that whenever you write something, instead of just telling what is happening, you can show it to the reader by using these five senses. Now how to use these five senses to show your story to the reader? Let's take an example. Frodo was horrified by the landscape. Every rock formation reminded him of gravestones, and there were foul smells and eerie sights at every turn. Now let's break this part by part. First, it says every rock formation reminded him of gravestones. So this is a visual impact. Every rock formation. So wherever he went, there were rock formations, and they reminded him of gravestones. So this tells us that those rock formations were very scary, because essentially those rock formations are reminding him of dead people. So we know now that the landscape looked scary. So here the reader is able to visualize how the landscape could possibly look like. The next part says, and there were foul smells. So in addition to looking scary, the landscape also smells really bad. The next part says, and eerie sights at every turn. So wherever Frodo looked in the landscape, there were maybe ghosts popping up and trees flying around. So basically it was this really scary landscape, and it was really creepy, and it smelled bad. So this enables the reader to visualize where Frodo is and how the landscape looks like, and it forms a visual image in the reader's mind. And this helps the reader transport into your book and able to feel like he's really there. And this is what's important while you're writing anything. Now, show don't tell. What's the difference between showing and telling a story? Let's see. Telling a story, here we have the example. I walked through the forest. It was already fall. I was getting cold. Here, fall means autumn, the season, right? Now, showing the dry orange leaves crunched under my feet as I pulled the collar up on my coat. Here, when you're telling the story, it's just saying that I walked through the forest and it was autumn. However, when you're showing the story, it says the dry orange leaves crunched under my feet. Now, orange leaves are only possible when it's autumn. You do not get orange leaves in spring or in winter or the rainy season. Orange leaves are only present in autumn. But the thing is, while you were telling, you were saying fall. So the reader read it, and that's that. But when you're showing the dry orange leaves, so the reader starts imagining a forest where it's filled with orange leaves. And let's see the next part. It crunched under my feet. So the visual that comes to your head when you read this is that while there are trees full of orange leaves, there are also orange leaves all scattered around in the ground. If the readers, if the character has orange leaves crunching at his feet. And let's see the next part. As I pulled the collar up on my coat. So this tells that if he is wearing a coat and he has to pull the collar up, then probably it's very cold there. So you can imagine the scene. You can imagine the forest, you can imagine the trees, you can imagine the leaves, the character, and it forms a really good impact on the reader. However, when you're telling, it's the same thing. You're telling that it's in a forest, you're telling it's fall, you're telling that the character is getting cold. You're telling the same things, but the difference is when you're telling, the reader is just reading and he's not relating to the story. However, when you show, the reader gets engrossed, he starts imagining it, and he starts getting lost in the book. And that is what you want that's what you want for your reader, and that's what makes a good story. So remember, this is a very important point. Show, don't tell. Now this takes a lot of practice. You cannot do it in 1 month or so. You need to practice a lot, and it comes to you eventually, but I'm sure if you practice hard, it will come to you. Next part, catchy beginnings. Now the very first words or paragraph should get the reader's attention. Sometimes what happens is, if you're seeing a show, or if you're reading a book, or if you're seeing a movie, that the beginning is usually really slow, and you are watching it, and sometimes what happens is, just after, if you're seeing a movie, just after seeing 5-10 minutes you get bored and you switch it off. But then you realize, someone tells you that, oh, the movie is really good, and you say, no, I didn't like it. But then again, you've seen only the first 10 minutes of the movie, and you rewatch it and you realize that after the initial half an hour, that the movie is actually really good. See, why does this happen? Sometimes what writers do is that they start with really slow beginnings, and the story becomes good after some time. But the drawback or the disadvantage they have here is, if the reader does not like the first part, then there's a very good chance that he'll stop reading the book or he'll stop watching the movie. So if you're writing a book, or um, if you're just writing a story, you need to remember that when you begin it, it should be captivating, and it should be engrossing, and it should be entertaining. Do not begin with a slow start, because there's a very good chance that the reader will not go further. after just reading that slow start. Now, there are a lot of books that have slow starts and are still very famous. But if you'll see that most of these books which have slow starts and are famous are the old books, the classics. And if you look at it practically, in olden times, people didn't have a very fast-paced life, right? So, according to them, it was well suited the slow beginnings, and they had the time to read it. But today we live in a fast-paced world, and if you still write a slow beginning, there's a very good chance that your readers might not read it. And while, of course, you should write what you like, you also need to keep in mind that the reader might have certain preferences and the reader might like certain things, and it is eventually for the reader that for them, the audience that you're writing. So you need to kind of think, would I read this if a book was given to me? And I know that whenever I buy a book or something, that I always judge a book by reading a few pages, and if I don't like those, then I keep the book back. So you need to keep in mind that if a reader doesn't like the first few pages, then there's a very good chance that he might not read the entire thing at all. Or if it's not a book, if even if it's an essay, your first few words need to be really captivating, because if you're submitting, suppose, an essay to your teacher, and if the first words are not good, then there's a very good chance that your that the teacher decides to kind of lower your grade a bit, because even if your rest of the essay is very good, the beginning was not good, and that has an impact. It's like first impressions. First impressions are always important. Okay, so moving on. The next important point that I'd like you to remember is necessary versus unnecessary. Include only what is necessary. Don't go on rambling about things that do not fit in there. Look at it from a practical perspective. If something does not fit in there, if something does not suit your story, then remove it, delete it. Do not write unnecessarily. Here I have included an example. If a man never ties his shoelaces, only include something like that to emphasize his lazy attitude, and or if deeper into the story, it's what causes him to fall and break his neck. Otherwise, leave it out. Now, you do not need to include everyday habits of a character. But however, if that particular habit is necessary to the story, then you include it. Like in this example, a man never ties his shoelaces. So this does not need to be included in the story, because for the most part it might not have any relevance to the story. However, if for instance the man is really lazy and you want to bring to light that fact, you want to emphasize and you want to show how important that fact is, that he has a very lazy attitude, he has a very lazy personality, then you include that he never ties his shoelaces as an example. Or if never tying his shoelaces is what causes him later to break his neck, so you include it. Otherwise, you leave it out if it's not important to your story. Every detail should have some sort of importance and relevance in the story. Repetition. This is a kind of similar point to the last one. There's just a slight difference. While sometimes repetition is used to state one's point, most times it is used unnecessarily. For example, I am taking my car to the shop tomorrow, so I won't be able to go anywhere because my car will be in the shop. Here, the readers are told twice that the car will be in the shop tomorrow. First, you're saying, I am taking my car to the shop tomorrow. Okay, fine. Then you again say, so I won't be able to go anywhere because my car will be in the shop. Now, do not assume that your readers are stupid and you need to tell them the same thing twice. If you have said once that your car is in the shop tomorrow, you need not include it again. The readers understood it. Readers are not that stupid that you have to include it twice. That's just unnecessary. One more example we have is using the same adjectives over and over. For example, all the girls are pretty, all the guys are handsome, all the cars are fast, or repeating the same detail and description over and over. You need to tell it only once. If you've told that these girls are very pretty or these guys are handsome, then that's it. Okay, if you need to emphasize on the character, then you can repeat it. But if it's unnecessary, do not keep repeating that, oh, this car is fast, this car is fast. The readers understood it the first time. You need not include it again. Okay, this is a very important point. Dialogues. If you write a story without dialogues, there's a very good chance that no one will read it. So be sure to include dialogues. And dialogues need to be written really carefully because there are a lot of rules when it comes to dialogues. You have to be sure that it suits your character. You have to be sure the dialogues are good. You have to be sure the dialogues look natural, they feel natural. So there's a lot of instinct involved in this. It's a gut. It's kind of based on the character development. It's based on the character's personality. What kind of dialogues would he or she say? A character speech will tell the reader a lot about them, especially when they're first being introduced. So a dialogue, it can be used to bring to introduce the reader to a certain fact about your character. It can be used to highlight some of your character's personality quirks or something of importance. Do they use long sentences or do they prefer short, punchy replies? Now this says a lot about them. If they use long sentences, why do they use long sentences? Maybe they like to talk a lot. But if they use short, punchy replies, it says that they do not like to talk much. Or maybe it's because they're really funny and they have a short, punchy reply for everything. So you need to keep it in mind. Next question that I've included is, are they likely to use slang and call an authority figure dude or fam? Or will they address them respectfully as Mr. So-and-so? So again, this depends on the character personality. If your character is rude, then you might not use Mr. So-and-so. However, if your character is very polite, then you'll use the formal terms. So you need to make sure that the dialogues are in sync with your character personality. They need to go hand in hand. Use dialogue throughout your story to convey your character's thoughts. For example, this piece of dialogue shows us that Esther, which is a made-up character, is frustrated. But I'm the top student of my class, Esther pleaded. Why should they get to examine the body and not me? So, Esther's probably some medical student, and she's saying that I am the top student in my class. And apparently, she wants to examine the body, but she's not getting to, and she's frustrated. And how can you tell that she's frustrated? Because of the words and the dialogues used. So you can see it from how the way it's framed that Esther's very frustrated, and then they also use the word pleaded, which again emphasizes on the point that she's frustrated. So dialogues can be used to reveal the moods of your character. The last point that I've included here is each character must have a unique voice. Now, if every person speaks in a different manner, some speak really sarcastically, some speak politely, some don't like to speak at all. So your dialogues should reflect your character's voice, and they should be unique for every character. Now, moving on, we have grammar and style mistakes. So, this is the last point that I have included, and this is the most classic point to remember because even if you get everything right, there's a very good chance, in fact, there's 100% chance that there are going to be grammar and style mistakes. There's no way that there won't be grammar mistakes in English because English is a really vast subject and the grammar is really difficult. So, which is alright, you will make mistakes, but the key is proofread. Read it again and again and make others read it, make professionals read it, have someone you think is good in English read it so that they can point out the grammar mistakes and the styling mistakes. Because if you're writing something, then there's a very good chance that because you have written it, that you will not be able to see the exact mistakes you've made. So making someone else read it is a really good practice because they'll be able to point those out and you can correct them. And grammar and style mistakes are very basic and they need to be corrected because readers would readers usually like reading something or even if you see a movie and the characters are not being grammatically correct, I'm sure you won't like it. Even if the story is good and the grammar is pathetic, then people don't like it. So what I've written here is there are too many content writers, bloggers, even students thinking that creativity indulges everything. They think that because it's writing that they can avoid proofreading and having others read it because they're just that good, which is not true. Everyone needs to have another opinion. There's no way that you don't make grammar mistakes. However, nothing can be further from the truth. You have to proofread every part, every abstract, use online proofreading services, pay for a grammar checker, but don't let readers be irritated by your technical mistakes. Now, I've used the word proofread a lot of times. And for those of you who do not know what proofread means, I'll tell you it's just going through whatever you have written again. And while you're proofreading basically means reading everything again and going through it just to look for mistakes. That's what proofreading is. So proofreading is a very important part. Do not miss it. And if you think you're not good at proofreading, have someone else do it for you. Have your teacher do it for you. Or if you do not want your teacher to do it, then have someone do it online. Then there's websites which are willing to do it for you. But do not miss this because a grammatically incorrect story will make the readers irritated. And even if your story is good, just because of the grammatical mistakes, the readers will not read your story. So it's a very important point and do not miss it. In the last activity for our classes, now this is kind of an activity where you really have to think. It's a summation, it's a summary of what all I've taught you in the previous classes and today. I wanted to use all the concepts that you've learned today in this story. Okay, so Everyone will write a story of about 200 to 300 words. And I'll tell you what, you can exceed the word limit by around 100, 200 words. It's your choice. If you want to write 200 to 300 words, that's also alright. But in case your story goes to 400, 500 words, I'm fine with that also. Now the story should be about defending the castle from an angry witch who can change into any animal. Now this is a little bit complex. It's not an easy topic, I know, but I'll explain it to you. Defending the castle. Now you are in a castle, so you're probably someone who's living there, or you are a guard. It's your choice. So what does defending the castle mean? It means you're protecting the castle. Now why are you protecting the castle? You're protecting the castle from an angry witch. So wherever you live, witches exist. And there's a particularly angry witch who wants to damage the castle that you're protecting. No, you have to think, why would a witch want to do that? Did you do something to the witch? Is the witch just mad? Who knows? The next part says, who can change into any animal. Now the witch who wants to destroy your castle can also take the shape of an animal. So your witch can be a human, but the witch can also attack in the form of maybe a dragon or a snake or any animal that the witch wants. So here I've included a few points that you need to think about before you write the story. The first one is, why are you protecting the castle? Are you the king, the queen, the prince, the princess, the captain of the armies? There needs to be a reason why you're protecting the castle, right? It's not just that one day you wake up and you decide, oh, let's go and protect the castle. You need to, if you are protecting the castle, there will be a reason for it. You either live in the castle, or you have your job in the castle, or you have some personal connection to the castle. There has to be a reason why you're protecting it. The second point is, why would the witch be angry? Did something happen to her? Does she want revenge? Now, if the witch wants to destroy the castle, it's maybe because you upset her previously, or maybe she wants the gold that is hidden in the castle, or maybe she decides that she wants to rule over the kingdom, and she can only rule over the kingdom once the king and queen are destroyed. And to destroy the king and queen, she decided to destroy the castle. So it's your choice. Think about it. Why is the witch angry? There needs to be a reason. Then the third question that you need to ask is, what shapes can she change into? A dragon, a fly, a lion? Because this will play an important part. If she's a dragon, then dragons can breathe fire, right? So if she's a dragon, then she can just breathe and your castle will be destroyed. Or if she's a fly, then even if you lock her up in a jail, she's a fly, she can get out of there just by looking into the window, right? Or maybe she's not just one animal, she can turn into a variety of animals. So that will include a whole new danger. So you need to think about it. The next point that you have to think about is, how will you protect the castle from her? So so let's take that the witch is a dragon. So if the witch is a dragon and she can breathe fire, then how will you protect the castle from her? Are you just a human being? Or maybe you are also some kind of witch, or maybe you are a fairy, or maybe you have magical powers. Your choice. It's completely your choice. I mean, it's possible that you're just a human and you still manage to defeat her. It's happened before in stories. Why not this one? The last question is, what will the ending be? Is it a happy one or is it a bad one? Does the witch win or do you win? Or maybe you leave it open-ended, like the reader can think for himself what the ending is. Who knows? And while writing this story, I want you to apply all the concepts that I've taught you and the three parts of the story, the character building, then the pyramid that I taught you for writing a plot, and the points that I told you to remember while you're writing a story, and then the important points that we discussed today about including the five senses and grammatical errors and showing, not telling, not using unnecessary details. I want you to keep all that in mind while writing the story. Take your time, take as much time as you want, but come up with a good story, and then you can send it to me and I'll tell you my reviews. So that's it. We're done. I hope you liked the classes, and I wish you all well. I hope you're all safe and in this time, and just have a good life. Thank you.